I think I need to catch you guys up a bit. I've been very busy. So this project had an awful lot of failed starts. If you remember, all the way back in 2022, you'd have to be a very early viewer for that, I tried making a foam Iron Man helmet. And while it basically worked, it looked kind of scrappy, I couldn't get the scaling quite right, and it just wasn't anything special. People have already made Mark 6s before. A few months after doing that video, I thought, what if I designed my own Iron Man suit? What would it look like? So I came up with what I think is a pretty neat blend of the 60s original comic book look with a more sort of MCU proportioned and detailed aesthetic. With this new design in mind, I decided let's try 3D modeling it in Blender myself. I want to remind you, this was back in 2022. I was not very good at Blender, and it took me a lot of weeks to make a model that was okay, it's alright. If you can't tell, I was not pleased with it. So I spent a year learning Blender properly, watching a bunch of tutorials and upskilling, and then I had a second shot at it. This time, 3D modeling around a scan that I took of myself, so that I would actually know the suit would fit. This second go around was a lot closer to the kind of helmet I was after. It's still got those 60s horns and everything, but it's got a more movie-inspired sort of chin section. The faceplate forms the upper lip, it all sort of meshes nicely. Once I was happy with that, I decided to model the rest of the suit, which was a lot harder than I first anticipated because I was still relatively new to Blender. Thankfully, a few months later, I ended up going to an art college, and my illustration teacher there, who obviously had a great understanding of anatomy, was able to give me the pointers I need to come up with what was my final Iron Man suit design. And I love this thing. It's very bulky and sort of armored looking, but it's still got that retro classic feel. Not to mention a slight more movie realism. Bear in mind though, this was a year ago before I actually, got good with 3D printing and made all my Transformer models. So my first thought was, let's do this out of cardboard. This guy, he's all right. The problem is, the cardstock would actually sort of warp the model from what the actual dimensions were because, the cardstock would flex. And so no matter how much work I put into it, it was always sort of an approximation of my 3D model, not a 100% copy. And I didn't realize this was an issue until I built quite a lot of it. And those minor slight tweaks and differences were starting to compound on each other to a point where parts weren't fitting nicely. And also, no matter how much hot glue I use, this suit is not going to be as durable as I want it to be. So, fast forward another year, Prusa sent me a Core 1 to help with my Optimus Prime 3D prints. So I've got 2 3D printers at this point, and I think, how hard could it be to print an Iron Man suit? I mean, you see all these YouTubers like Frankly Built or Emily Engineer doing the entire suits out of 3D prints. I could do that, right? And so I got to work converting my model for 3D printing, but I also made one major change, which is kind of the whole unique feature of this suit. Not only does it look like the cool sort of 60s inspired one, it's gonna stand on its own. As in Spider-Man Homecoming style, it opens up, supports its own weight, I step in. I'm not gonna motorize it, I don't want to spring lock myself, but it is gonna be able to stand on its own, I can lock all the joints and everything, and then unlock it when I wanna wear it around a convention or whatever. So I printed off the faceplate and the helmet and everything, and I was also printing it with a partially clogged extruder, which is why these prints look really bad. This didn't matter though, because I wanted to sand these prints. I want to get them nice and smooth. So I absolutely went to town on it with a bunch of different grits of sandpaper, going from 80 grit to 120, using a mouse sander to, not break my hands, because oh my god, hand sanding that much? I've already got cement wrists. If you're familiar with smoothing 3D printed cosplays, then you know this took a few passes using some sort of filler putty. For me, I chose to use spackle because I've got lots of it, it's cheap, and it actually adheres pretty well. I know people in the comments are going to tell me to use Bondo or spot putty or some sort of like filler primer. I don't have access to those where I am, and I also don't like the fumes and would like to enjoy living a bit longer, please? Thank you. Does this mean it's as smooth as I could possibly get it? No. But I'm weathering it anyway, so there's not much point. So once I was happy with the sanding, I gave it a coat of paint. And me being me, I color separated all the parts like I do in my little Transformer models, so it was a lot easier and I didn't have to mask anything off. Once I did my initial base coats with spray paints, I then did the weathering pass, and this just consisted of some washes with black acrylics and some dry brushing with white acrylics. I didn't want to go too overboard with the weathering, but I did decide if there was a bit that I very clearly had missed when sanding, instead of trying my best to cover it up and hide it, I actually embellished it with the weathering so it looked more like a deliberate dent or scratch or something. Now again, I'm not planning on motorizing my suit, so once I was happy with the paint job and everything, I attached the faceplate via these sort of retractable lanyard things. They're basically like a string on a spring that wants to pull back constantly and line it up. And then of course, 2 little magnets at the bottom so that it sort of clicks into place. As you can see, this looks a lot more professional and a lot more what I was going for on my first cardboard attempt. So making sure I'd finished the helmet before moving on to anything else was a great idea, because as I quickly found out, cosplay 3D prints eat filament a lot quicker than little Transformer models. So I thought, why not I reach out to Prusia? They've sponsored me before in the past. So I reached out and I said, hey, do you do filament sponsorships at all? Here's my project. Are you interested in maybe sending some filament my way? And they basically just said, how much? Huh? Like, no questions asked. They were just like, how much? This seems cool. Let's do it. Which is insane and awesome. And I cannot express how grateful I am. And so they sent, they sent like 20 rolls of filament. And so that basically brings us up to speed. I have the helmet finished and I am currently working on the legs. So I've been considering doing a sort of more vlog style video format anyway, more like Evan and Caitlin or Bob from I Like to Make Stuff. So I figured doing a project that's of this scale that I can't fit in one video easily, it's kind of going to be the perfect place to try that. So the subsequent videos are going to be almost sort of progress updates as I go, and I'll try to get them out as regularly as I can. I am not, however, going to rush. They are done when they are done, because this is my passion project. This is, I've wanted to make an Iron Man suit since 2012 when I first watched Avengers. I was very small then. This has been a very long time coming. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction video, and if you did and you want to see how the rest of the suit turns out, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Farewell! And if you want to see how the rest of the suit goes, make sure you...